Boys, today we're going to be going through the entire weight classes of the UFC and we're going to be ranking them on which one's the worst, which one's the best. But I'm not just going to be like, yeah, this one sucks, this one's good, this one sucks. We're also going to add some things on how we can improve each weight class. Starting with, in my opinion, currently the worst weight class. On screen, I'll show the entire top 15. Now, the top 15 doesn't generally show exactly how bad a weight class is, but that's what we're going to be doing. So the worst weight class right now, in my opinion, is probably the heavyweight division. Heavyweight division, there's countless things wrong with it. Right now we have two champions that aren't fighting each other, and it's fully on that Jon Jones side. So we have two of the biggest stars in heavyweight just refusing to fight, and Aspinall, I understand, refusing not to defend the interim champ. I don't want him to defend the interim championship. If he fights again, it has to be for undisputed, and the whole hiccup right now is Jon Jones. And we just look at the top 15. The top 15 is so ass compared to any other division is more, maybe not any other division, but a lot of divisions are have way more depth to them than the heavyweight division. The one thing to bring some life into this division, I actually have two things here. One of them is a sneaky pick that I don't think a lot of people think about, but two things that we can for sure make this class so much better is, one, we need to bring in some more talent. This is probably going to be a lot harder than what it seems like, but to be honest, bring in a bunch of cans if you really have to, so we can weed them out. Some can stay, some can go. We just need more people in the heavyweight division. The heavyweight division has, I think, about 30 to 40 fighters in it, which is crazy. We definitely need to bump up those numbers, and one thing to help increase the numbers is we can increase the heavyweight limit. I don't mind bumping up that division. It doesn't have to be something stupid, but I think we can increase it a few pounds. I think, if we want to bring in some new talent, there's a whole pool of talent that hasn't been able to enter the UFC because they're like 300-pound people. I say we increase the limit to 285. That means, if there's still 300, 190, 310 people walking around there, I think they can do a weight cut to get to 285 and make heavyweight. I think if we, bring in more talent and increase the heavyweight limit, I think it's a recipe for nothing but positive outcomes, in my opinion. And yeah, right now, heavyweight has to be not just the worst division, skill-wise, depth-wise, but just activity-wise. Mainly when it comes to some of the bigger names, like we got Jon Jones, that barely fights. Tom Aspinall, he has been fairly active, but as of recently, because of Jon Jones, doesn't fight. Ciryl Gane, rather be a movie star. And those are some of the biggest names we have in this division. With that being said, bring in more people, increase the limit. Let's go into, my opinion, the second worst division we have in the UFC, and that's going to be the middleweight division. Middleweight division is just, it's hard to explain, but when you watch middleweight fighters compared to pretty much any other fighters, like even welterweight, you can just tell there is a noticeable skill difference. Now, another reason is, a way we can fix it also leads into what's wrong with it. There's a bunch of older dudes on this roster, especially the top 15, where we just need the new generation. So for example, we need to start feeding some of these older dudes to the new generation, like Strickland, Adesanya, Whitaker, Costa, Vettori, Dolidze, Costa. Those are so many names in the top 15 that are part of that old generation that are honestly a few losses or a year or two away from just retiring from the sport. So we need to start feeding them to the new generation. We need to start building up some name value for this division. And like I said before, you could see a noticeable skill difference. The new generation is low-key starting to pick up that skill difference. For the longest time, middleweight was considered one of the worst skilled divisions for a minute now. That's why Adesanya has so much flack for his title defense, because he was fighting a bunch of people who just suck ass, to be honest. But I think the new generation is bringing up some of that new gen, skill. We have Anthony Hernandez here now. We have Caio Borralho, I'm not super sold on yet, but we have some names here that are starting to pick up some real skill and starting to show that there's levels to this, and I think they can wipe out this old generation, because like I said, we're a few years away from these dudes retiring. Let's go into the third worst division in the UFC. We have Flyweight division. Now, mainly because it all comes down to, yes, Flyweight might be one of the most skill divisions there is in the UFC. But for a lot of people, they only care about finishes, and they hate when, fights are 15-minute fight, 30-minute fight, 35-minute fight. They want to see finishes. They don't want to see decisions. And flyweight is a very, very decision-heavy division. Now, that being said, the top 15 have a lot of dudes who are finishers, but top 15 doesn't always equate to the entire division. The entire division is what we're talking about, not just the top 15. And this is a lot harder said than done. For a while now, Pantoja was labeled a decision merchant in his title career, but I think that's about to switch up. Brandon Moreno, he's like 50-50. Royval, again, 50-50. Amir, he's a decision merchant. Kai Car France can be 50-50. Tatsuya Taira, I think, is a decision merchant. Manel Cap can be a finisher, but also a decision merchant. Alex Perez, decision merchant. Steve Ercik, as of late, he can be a finisher, but it's also 50-50, and I can go down and down and down. It's not like we have a solid finisher in flyweight. With that being said, I think an easy way to for sure increase the popularity of this division is simple. More finishing ability. Now, a lot of you guys are probably thinking, how the hell is that possible? They're flyweights. They don't pack that much punch. I think these dudes are capable of finishing each other. However, I think it's just I don't know if they have the right mentality going into it. Give them a reason to want to hunt for a finish, Give them, this doesn't have to apply to every division. If the UFC wanted to, and this could probably increase the entire popularity of every division, give them a reason to do it, A division that's struggling like flyweight might have more of an incentive than a heavyweight bout, but for flyweight, give them like an extra 10, 20 grand if they get a finish, If it's if it's a finish, 10 grand. If it's a highlight, 20 grand. Something like that, so there's an incentive for each of these guys to go out there and get a finish. And like I said, the same can be done to all these other divisions, Heavyweight can be 5K for a finish because it happens so often. 10K for highlights. It's easy stuff like that. It doesn't have to be the most amount of money. I mean, we could do more than 20 grand, but I know the UFC is a little stingy like that. But again, give them a reason to go get the finish. Let's get into the next division. I got light heavyweight here. This might be controversial, but low-key, heavyweight is very... just look at the top 15. Look at these fighters. We still have Dominic Reyes in the top 15. That should tell you we still have Anthony Smith in the top 15. That's everything you need to know. And I think an easy way to fix the top 15... yes, we have some dudes on here that are name value guys that are household names. We got Pereira, we got Prochazka, we got, I would still say, Jamal Hill and Jan Blachowicz. Those are still names that people know. We have Khalil Roundtree now. These are solid names, but we still have a bunch of people here that, in my opinion, are not top 15 level, and we need the new generation to swoop in. So I think an easy way to get, more popularity for this division, we have to make the top 15 fight more often, We need top 10 to 15 guys fighting either below the rankings, outside the rankings, close to the rankings. But we need to start cycling in some new guys to enter the division because, like I said, we have Dominic Reyes, Anthony Smith. We still have those dudes in the top 15. It's time for those guys to fight non-ranked opponents so we can get some new blood into the top 15. And we just have to get that top 15 to fight more often. Like, Pereira really carries the top 15 for activity. Magomed, he was semi-active, not so much now. Honestly, he wasn't really that active compared to like Alex Pereira. Yuri Prochazka, semi-active. Jan Blachowicz, ever since the injury, has been non-existent. Jamal Hill has been picking up that activity, which we like to see. Honestly, Ratchik isn't even that active. Carlos Alberg, semi-active. Khalil, semi. Nikia, this dude fights once every 5 years. Uzumir, again, not that active. Like, all of these dudes aren't that active. We need more activity, especially in the top 15. Let's go down. I think next up on the list, we have to put like welterweight here. Welterweight really suffers with, before I would say they really struggled with having the same dudes fighting over and over and over, especially for the championship. And we didn't have much, new faces in the top 15. I honestly, in my opinion, keep doing what they're doing. They're doing a great job right now because the new generation is here. I think the next step is for, start matching up the new generation. Like what we just saw with Colby Covington and Joaquin Buckley. Perfect matchmaking. We need more stuff like that. The old dude versus the new generation. And welterweight has been picking it up way more. And to be honest, welterweight has become from one of the worst divisions back up to one of the better ones in the UFC if they continue matchmaking correctly. If they still do some bullshit like Leon Edwards versus Gilbert Burns, you know, we do Kamaru Usman versus, who else could we put Kamaru against? Kamaru versus, you know, Colby Covington again, like stupid shit like that we don't need. It's time for old gen versus new gen. We can build up some of these new guys because welterweight was very stagnant for a long time. But let's keep moving down because we're getting pretty long into this video. We got 3 more divisions left that, in my opinion, the top 3 divisions. Next up, Bantamweight division. Bantamweight division for a lot of people is their favorite division and is their number 1. Me personally, it's top 3. Definitely top 3, but the other divisions are these can all be switched up is what I'm trying to say, but they're all so good. Bantamweight division, one thing we can, you know, increase the popularity is stop giving these dudes favorable matchups, especially in that top 15. Like, perfect example, Sean O'Malley, Merab 2. We don't want to see that. The fan base is starting to turn on the UFC, especially for this matchmaking. We want to see other stuff. Even like, this isn't a favorable matchup. It's just stupid matchmaking. Marlon Vera versus Mario Batista. We don't really want to see that. Honestly, we want to see Mario Batista versus Francis Ngannou, to be honest. But even Henry Cejudo versus Song Yadong, I didn't really care to see that. Rob Font versus, who was it? Dominic Cruz, didn't care to see that. They did a good job with Corey Sandhagen and Davison Figueiredo. I think that was a great matchup, but again, stop giving so many guys favorable matchups. We can say the same thing with Umar Nurmagomedov. For the most part, we didn't want to see most of these fights. Honestly, I wanted to see him fight one more time for the belt, but it is what it is. Let's go into featherweight now. Number 2 pick. Featherweight division, I think, is really struggling with what a lot of these divisions are, and that is there's too many old generation fighters in the top 15, which is okay. They're still fun, entertaining fighters, but we need to start bringing in the new generation. Like, for example, let's run through the top 15. I'll give you guys old gens. We got, I don't want to say it, but we got Volkanovski, old gen. Max Holloway, old gen. Yair, Brian Ortega, Arnold Allen, Josh Emmett, Aljamain Sterling, Giga, Calvin Kattar, Dan Ige. I mean, it's freaking majority of the top 15. We need to start bringing in the new gen. We saw what happened with Ilya Taporia. He came in here like a rocket and became champion easily. So we need to bring in the new gen. We need to start, unfortunately, we need to start feeding these old gen to the new gen fighters. Like, honestly, Alex Volkanovski versus Diego Lopez, perfect matchmaking in my opinion. Finally, we get to see the old gen versus the new gen in a championship level fight. And yeah, it's still, I'm not saying these guys are bad fighters or I don't want to see them fight anymore. That's just not the case. I like seeing the new gen versus the old gen, and we have a lot of old gen in this division that needs to be not just tested, but also some of them need to be recycled out of the top 15, if I'm being honest. And yeah, that just leaves one more division, lightweight. Lightweight has been on top for years now. Lightweight, they need same thing with like a lot of these divisions, especially featherweight. They need the new generation. It's not that they have too many old fighters there, but they desperately need the new generation into the top 15, because I've been saying this for so long. So many of these top 15 fighters are going to retire within this year or next year. Mark my words. Let's run through the division right now. Islam Makhachev, we probably only have a few years left with Islam. Armin, he's a new gen. He can stay in. Charles, he's retiring in a few years. Mark my words. Justin Gaethje, same thing. Dustin Poirier, he has one more fight left and he's going. Max Holloway, I could see him staying for more than 2 years, but I wouldn't be surprised if he retires either. Dan Hooker, I would say 50-50. Michael Chandler, again, probably only has a select few fights left in the UFC. Gamrot could probably stay for a few years. You know, I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't retire. Beneil is definitely retiring in the next few years. Moicano, he's one of these newer gen guys. Maybe not new gens because he's been in the UFC for a minute, but he's finally making money, so he's going to stay. Fiziev, he's new gen. Patty, new gen. Jalen Turner, Grant Dawson, Benoit Saint-Denis, all new guys. But like I said, the majority of the top 10 are going to be leaving here soon. So we need to get the new guys up here. We need to get some name values for them, so when they do get into the top 15, they have name value. You know, the new generation needs to take over these old gen, because like I said, they're going to be leaving in the next few years. And imagine if they just all retired today, how shallow this division would be. It would probably go from the number 1 spot to maybe one of the worst. Easily one of the worst. So with that being said, let me know in the comments below, what do you think of my ranking? Do you agree? Do you disagree? What do you think of my bout placements for each division? And Do you think there's anything else we can do to increase the popularity of each of these divisions? I think low-key, some of these are some sneaky ones, like increasing heavyweight to 285. Sneaky pick by me. Nasty line work. But that being said, thank you guys for watching to the end of the video, and I will see you guys in my next video.